All right, on this episode of Bouts Talking Bouts, excited to be speaking with an individual who has taken part in BFL 71, which transpires February 17th. Vancouver, BC Battlefield Fight League is back at it, and we have Bobby Poulter taking on Saeid Mirzaei in a pro welterweight bout, and very happy to be talking to Bobby once again. How's your day going so far, man?
It's doing great, man. Just finished training about half an hour ago, just getting some good food in me, and now I'm ready to chat for a bit.
Some great Aegis MMA work, I would presume.
You bet it was. Solid three and a half hour session. Jeez.
yeah, light workout, you know.
Yeah, just a light jog, nothing crazy.
But yeah, it's so cool to see like the permanence of the space now. I was actually talking to Kyron Cameron the other day, just the saga, how everything developed, like from what happened with Parabellum and just finding this new space with Aegis MMA. Can you kind of talk about just that sort of timeline and also finding the new space and sort of the permanence of it all? Because I was happy to see that.
Yeah, man. So I guess everything closed. Parabellum closed September of 2020. Sorry. So it was tough, man. We didn't have and it happened so fast. To be honest, it was really tough to hear that they were closing down. Within about 2 weeks, everything was out of the building. And so what happened is actually Scott Hudson and I opened a smaller facility, just a 600 and something square foot garage gym, basically, above a local bar downtown Burlington, and just did half mat space, half weights, and we were training out of that for both of our last fight camps. We were there for almost an entire year, which was unideal, but we had a place and we had the team still, and that's all that mattered. But in the last 2 months since Aegis opened up, it's just been amazing to have a space back, like a real true space where we have 1,500 square feet of mats. Lyndon's back all the time, full-time coaching. Lucas is back. It's pretty amazing. It's quite the journey, but the team stayed together, and it's crazy. We just basically moved facilities a year and a half later. It's not much different.
Yeah, I love to see that things are back on track and stuff like that, and that the collective is still there and still very much intact and building on everything there. But I saw in the Instagram bio there it did say gym owner. So was that the one with Scott Hudson you were referring to there? Because that kind of piqued my curiosity. Do you have, I guess, more of that interest to be a gym owner now and curate a certain space like that, or was that kind of gym dynamic with Scott Hudson purely out of necessity, and the path now is solely competition more so?
At first, it was kind of out of necessity because we needed somewhere to train. We needed somewhere to have our clients as well, because Scott was leaving BTC at that time. And Parabellum was closing, which was where I was working. And me and Scott worked well together. We've been training partners forever. And when we opened that space, man, to be honest, I didn't expect it to turn out to what it is now. It's quite different. I can't even explain it, because I started with, two or three guys and, a couple of clients here and there that I would just do PTs with. And, it just kind of just paid for itself. It wasn't meant to be much of a business. It was just kind of paying rent and having somewhere to train. And having somewhere where the team could be, I wasn't making anything off of it. I was barely being able to pay rent with it. But, in the last probably 6-8 months, it's been amazing. Even during COVID, even through all these restrictions, people want to train, they want to get better. And I've got a solid group of 6 or 7 guys that come in now every single day. And in the evenings we train. Right? It's a nice transition, because as much as I love competing, being able to have that coaching aspect and then trying to learn to coach people and be the best coach I can be is also, I found, helping improve myself as a fighter.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my question there, because I've heard from certain fighters when they impart technique to people, it further refines their understanding of a technique that on a physical level, it's oh yeah, I've drilled this a fair bit, but speaking things aloud and trying to break it down to new people, seems to inform a greater understanding of those techniques. So cool to hear that's a thing for you.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with that, because it's you think you know something, right? But the true definition of knowing something is, if you can't explain it to somebody, you probably don't understand it.
Yeah.
So, if I learn something early in the day and I'm repping it out and I'm repping it out for an hour or two, and then, I think I understand it, but like, I got to teach it to somebody in, a day or two or a few days. It's like, I got to go do those extra reps. I got to figure it out. And then I go teach it, and it's even more repetitions on repetitions. So it's like, I'm damn going to know that technique that I just learned.
Yeah, no doubt. And cool it seems like something you're very passionate about too. Like, I mean, obviously not this particular stretch of the year too, but like the different times of the year, like in the summer, for instance, when you're able to train outside and work with clients there, get the vitamin D. It seems like a good lifestyle kind of thing.
Oh man, it's awesome. It's amazing to be able to work outside, have just to spend your time outside, to do the same things you would do in a gym, but in the difference, you're doing it in the sun, you're doing outside, it's a lifestyle that some people, I think, I've never experienced, and I had never experienced so recently, and I realized how much like it makes a difference. Like, you feel better, you feel happier, you feel like more sense of purpose. It's so different. I wish everybody would try it.
Yeah, something to be said for it, for sure. And, just in the context of talking about euphoria, I imagine there was a fairly euphoric feeling to be had when you saw that last of the Hards trading card there, the Bobby Poulter pro debut collector's card. Can you kind of talk about that there? Because, I mean, that's a really cool sort of thing. And, I mean, the cards look pretty stellar.
Oh, yeah, man. I was amped. And honestly, like, I worked with Paul before. Paul Barclay, he's an amazing photographer. He's a great artist. He's a very creative man in general. A jack of all trades. Seems to do a lot of things. But to be honest, like, he kind of mentioned that he was working on something. He just asked me if he could use that picture on something. And then all of a sudden, boom, all these card sets came out. And I was like, these are so cool, man. And to be honest, it's so cool because, growing up, I'm sure you grew up collecting hockey cards or Pokemon cards or whatever you were into, right? Whatever kind of cards you want to collect. And it's like, it's just cool to see your face on them. It's a little bit feeding the ego, but it's very cool.
Yeah, for sure. And as much as I enjoy, advents in technology, digital world, etc., all those kind of things, I think there's something to be said too for like that tactile experience, like the physical quality of, you're feeling it in your hand. It's got the certain almost like distinct smell to it, like, books, trading cards, etc. So yeah, that was really cool to see.
Yeah, man, it was, honestly. I think he's doing a lot to help out the community and the guys fighting. And I think he's able to turn into a business aspect. He's clearly an entrepreneur, and then it's impressive to just see that level of creativity.
Yeah, for sure. Always enjoy seeing the creativity showcase, but it seemed like you were showcasing a lot of combative creativity the last time out there. It seemed like that, Ken and Keller victory there got quite the response from the BFL 68 performance there. Like, I mean, UFC Fight Pass platform there. I mean, Grabaka Hitman sharing some love for that. It seemed like Kapoza was digging that on Twitter there. Like, what was your overall thoughts and feelings of, like, just the fight itself and just, I guess, the reaction thereafter?
Oh man, there's a lot of feelings that went along with that fight. Like, that was a fight that it had been almost 2 years since I had fought. Like, it was an experience getting back in there. And you know what? I prepared for 15 minutes, but sometimes things happen, and it's done even sooner. But it was crazy, man. Like, the amount of adrenaline that I got from that finish was more than I've ever had in my entire life. It was amazing to see all the hard work pay off, because that was a particularly challenging camp for me. It was very, very hard on my body and on my system, and I was sick constantly. So I was very, very worried that I wasn't going to be able to go in there and perform the way that I did. But, I grinded through it all, and good things come to those who just put in the work regardless of the scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think those issues in the lead up were kind of part of what you were talking about, like the, I guess, competitive dormancy? Like, was it a bit of that, like getting the body readjusted to getting back?
I don't know about that. Just because, like, I was always training, right? Like, there was actually, I even when I'm not in camp, I'm training twice a day. Even when I'm not training twice a day, I'll train, and then I go teach in the evening. Right? Like, regardless, that's my lifestyle. So that's not necessarily what my body was adjusting to. I was getting constantly sick. I had a lot of infections throughout my body. I was dealing with a bad staph infection. I was on IV antibiotics
Yeah.
3 weeks out of that fight. And then also I was on antibiotics every single week leading up to that fight for various infections. So my body just couldn't fight anything, man. It was a rough time. I felt sick. I felt like I couldn't train. I was in the hospital multiple times. And I didn't tell anyone, right? I wasn't telling anybody during these lead-ups, obviously. But, you know, you got to put your best face on. But afterwards, it's like, man, it's just crazy to think that I pushed through all that and I still got the result that I did.
Yeah, well, that is crazy to hear, certainly. And I'm, very glad you're doing well. I mean, health is the, paramount sort of thing. Like, as cool as it is to get out there and showcase the skills you've accrued in the gym, it's like health is definitely paramount. So good to hear you're feeling well, man.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely feeling much better now. Like, that's why everyone was kind of like shocked that I didn't compete back in December, because I'd finished that fight so quickly, and I was in great condition, obviously, and they're like, why don't you fight in 2 months? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, honestly, my body needed time to adjust and time to heal, and now this has been the best camp I've had in my entire life so far, so it's very different. It's just a better feeling. I feel more at ease with my performance.
Yeah, just a renewed sense of, like, the spirit and the body, it sounds like. It sounds like a twofold kind of thing there.
Yeah, man, like, I'm enjoying training again. Then it was just such a hard grind. My body was sick and tired all the time. But now it's like, I get to enjoy this shit now. I get back to the reason why I started this sport. And so it's going to be a different level that I come into now, because I'm able to actually have so much mental energy for this and physical energy that I didn't have prior.
Yeah, and that's super important. And you talk about different goals you have, like why you got into the sport and stuff like that. Like, it seems like one thing you've been targeting, at least at some point, is to like contend for certain regional hardware and stuff like that. And I mean, it's not necessarily out of the question to, get a strong victory here and to kind of, be in that position. Is that a fair characterization, you think? Like, do you think this next fight is going to be a big one to vault you towards those opportunities for regional belts, as we've kind of talked about in the past?
For sure, man. I think that, I get one more win here, and it'll kind of solidify me as the next prospect at welterweight. I'll be 4-0, and then I think that the talks will start happening with titles and, obviously regional hardware. But, like, to me, that's a little bit less important at this stage of my career. At this point, I just want to accrue as much experience as I can. And then, by the end of the year, definitely, I get another 2 or 3 fights this year. If I can get 3 to 4 fights this year, I would be so ecstatic. And, then it would be, I could be on the verge of contender series, right? As much as it is important that I need to, at some point, start challenging for that. It's like this next fight I'm focused on. But after that, I could see at least talks to start happening about, potential 170 challenges, or, whoever the champs might be, because there really aren't a lot of 170 current belt holders in Canada. The only one that I could think of is at BFL, right? So, who knows what Unified will have at welterweight? Who knows what BTC will have at welterweight? There's tons of other promotions that I hope, eventually start to throw those out there. And, I'll be one of the biggest names that they can put me towards it.
Yeah, and was that one of the bigger motivating factors with, like, wanting to get locked in more of like a multi-fight sort of arrangement with BFL versus some of the other promotions? Because obviously those promotions are great in their own right and all that, but just BFL having a, specifically instantiated welterweight champion, like, how much of a motivation was that for getting with Battlefield Fight League?
That was the biggest, because at the time that I signed this contract, I had no other chance of fighting. BTC wasn't holding shows, and even when they did, they didn't give me any options. Unified didn't really show too much interest in signing me. In the States, I didn't have a management at the time, so there was no connections. But BFL, when they offered it, I saw their welterweight division, it was stacked up. I'm like, this is perfect. I can run the rankings here. There's tons of guys to fight. But, after this next fight, I'm definitely going to see what else is out there, because there are, my management has a lot of connections at the States with CFFC, Fury Fighting. As much as I love fighting Canada, it's like, it's such a small place. They can't bring in Americans right now. So it was really tough to find a fight for this. Saeid was the only guy that stood up and took this fight. They almost weren't going to be able to find anybody for me. This was the only guy, and he had a bad rap of pulling out of fights. He's got a really bad history, to be honest. And I wasn't too keen on taking this fight because of how many times he has pulled out of fights on short notice, how much he hasn't showed up for events. And, that's scary, man. I could train my whole camp just for somebody not to show up. But, at this point, they said this is the only guy that's willing to accept the fight. So I have not much of a choice.
Yeah, it strikes me as a very unusual kind of thing in a lot of regards. Like, I don't know what motivated those different situations, but yeah, I mean, that is a fair point. There's been multiple bout cancellations and stuff like that, but it strikes me as kind of curious because, I mean, it obviously seems like he has a certain level of skill set and whatnot. So yeah, I've always found that to be, fairly baffling there.
Yeah, man, like he was a great amateur. He was the number 1 ranked amateur in the world at one point. Like, he had a phenomenal career ahead of him. And then even when he did get to pro, he started killing guys. He's the Rise FC champ right now, and that he fought a dude who had like 15 pro fights in his second pro fight. Right? Like he's not taking the easy way, but then I don't know what happened to him because he pulled out of 6 fights in a matter of 2 years. And then he was actually signed to the management I was with before this. And he just didn't show up to the flights. He just didn't show up. He had nothing. And so they let him go because that's how I knew him before, was because he's with the management that I was with.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I guess he just didn't show up for the flights because he had a fight in the States back only a month and a half ago. He was supposed to fight and he just didn't show up for the flight. He fucked up. They booked him more flights, and then he just didn't show up for those either, and then he ghosted them. So, I don't know what his deal is. I don't know if it's a mental thing or if he's dealing with some shit, but, fuck it. Knowing that a guy has that background is kind of sketchy, right? You try to shy away from those fights because you don't want to be the one on the receiving end of, you train hard for 6 weeks, 8 weeks just for somebody to pull out of a fight, especially, you cut that weight just for somebody not to show up.
Oh, totally. It would be hugely disappointing for sure. And I mean, you strike me as a very analytical guy in a lot of regards. Like, how, I guess, complicated is it to prepare for something like that? Because like you said, there's a bit of a track record where it's like, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? But, if you guys are out there locked in the cage, I mean, a decorated guy, stiff test. So, all those factors considered, is it a bit of a complicated web a little bit preparing for Saeid Mirzaei?
It is, man. I mean, it's not as complicated as it sounds, to be honest. As long as I can deal with the mental hurdles of, I might do all this and he might not show up. It's not the first time it's happened. I've had guys do that to me. I've had guys pull out on fight day. I've had guys not show up to weigh-ins, right? We've all been through there. It's the fight game. But like you said, if he shows up, man, this is going to be the toughest fight of my career so far. I think he's as dangerous as it gets. So that's why I'm excited for this matchup, because it's been a while since I woke up and was like, fuck, I got to train hard, even harder, because my opponent scares me. And this is one of the few times where it's like, damn, this guy's tough. If I don't wake up today and train, if I don't go 100% every time, he could easily beat me. So that's why I love this matchup, because even if regardless of the outcome, I'm getting so much better right now, and I am dealing with high anxiety. And that's the shit that made me join the sport to begin with.
Yeah, for sure, being in that pressure moment and everything like that, and responding and adapting appropriately. But this is kind of a question I was curious about, because, I mean, obviously you have a well-established history with Rory McDonald. You got your blue belt from him and just was teaching you jiu-jitsu all throughout the years and stuff like that. What's his situation now? What's he doing, training-wise, coaching-wise? Because, I don't know, maybe I'm missing the posts or whatever, but I feel like I'm not seeing him as part of the Aegis MMA fold as much, but maybe again I'm not seeing the proper posts, as it were.
Yeah, so when Parabellum closed, Rory went one way and Lucas and Lyndon parted the other way. So they were business partners at one point, and they decided to disintegrate the partnership. And Rory, he wanted to move back to Scotland. So he went out to Europe, and he was there for a while. I think he's still there right now. He's living life out there. I think he just needed a little change of scenery. And, I definitely, he was only grappling coach I've really ever had. But sometimes it's not in the cards for somebody to be in your life forever, and sometimes they're not meant to be, right? Like it's just he showed me so many amazing things that I will never forget. And now it's he's gone one way, and that's okay. He's not living here anymore, but the things he taught me are still here.
Yeah, well, that's cool to hear that he's kind of doing his own thing and doing well and stuff like that. Like, I feel like I don't know him super well, but I mean, just good to, hear someone's having a good quality of life and stuff like that. And I think that's a good way to look at it there. Just the whole adage of you appreciate the experiences you have with a certain person, but, maybe they go on their own path for a little bit. I guess that's one of the good things with social media too. You can kind of like keep up to date with what people are doing, even if they're in a different country.
Yeah, man, that's so true, right? Like, as much as I don't see him every day as much as I used to, right? But like I know he's doing well. I know he's enjoying his history. I know he's looking at other things, at different parts of his life that have nothing to do with combat sports. So it's kind of cool that he's expanding out there. I'm happy for him. As long as he's happy, man. Like, to be honest, I still got great coaches. Lyndon's a phenomenal grappler, and I'm very happy to have whoever wants to be around me.
Oh yeah, an incredible team out there for sure, and continually building on the skills for sure, which is scary for a lot of other people out there, I would have to think. But you've been great with your time, Bobby. Always fun getting to talk to you, but I want to be mindful of your busy schedule there. So is there anything you might want to add kind of as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here, man?
No, man, I just appreciate you making the time to talk too. It's always great talking to you before the fights. So hopefully it becomes a regular thing, but hopefully you're watching that fight, and hopefully you're rooting for me.
I will be peeping the fight, certainly. It's quite the tilt between Saeid Mirzaei and Bobby Poulter, and other people can join in on viewing that with me if they want via UFC Fight Pass on February the 17th. So yeah, great getting to have you on the show as always, Bobby. Fun getting insights, and yeah, best of luck with the remainder of the preparations, and looking forward to peeping the fight as well.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.